Live from PressCorps World Headquarters, this is Zero Dark PressCorps. It's a live post-war call-in show, hearing your first-hand accounts and war stories of battles from the previous conflict. So join the Discord right now through the link below. Hop in the general voice channel and get ready to share your stories. And now, your host, 9-time winner of the Geoffrey Jennings Award for Excellence in Journalism, Geoffrey Jennings.
All right, welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps, ladies and gentlemen. Intro kind of filled it in for all you there, but yes, we are a community-based call-in show taking your calls from around the Foxhole community, talking about the most recent 46th conflict and the upcoming 47th. And we've got opening up some opening comments here. You'll have to excuse me. I just came from a very long drive before rushing up here to get things started. But the PressCorps has exploded in terms of its roster in the past week and a half, from about 15-ish members, more or less. I want to say, bring that down to maybe 11 members, more or less, up to about 20-something active members. So in terms of our output and how we present ourselves, it may be a little messy, but you know what? I'm so glad to have so many great community members from all across the spectrum here. And joining us tonight, we've got some new ones as well. I'll just arbitrarily start off with Bolotny. Bolotny, welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps. Is your first one?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah,
very proud to be a part of the corps, and I see there's a lot of people now, and I'm glad to contribute to the whole.
Yeah, and you're our resident native Russian and English speaker. So Russian's your first language, right?
Russian is my first language, along with Ukrainian. Second language I learned is English. I'm kind of, you can hear by the fucking accent.
Well, so glad to have you on board, and any Russian-based news or stories that need to be collected, please go through Bolotny, and we'll redirect you to Bolotny. So thank you for joining us here tonight. All right, and just up next, Dan D. Manat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here. Been a fan of the show for a very long time.
Yeah, came on board as a writer/reporter, and collected a few stories for the newspaper, our brand new newspaper, the PressCorps Bulletin, which you can find on the Discord link below and view them here on the Discord here at PressCorps World Headquarters. Dan, how are you?
I'm very good tonight.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining and having us on, being on board for tonight. And then up next here is Al Gould, who may cut out a little bit later or may join us again, but that's all right. Al Gould, thank you so much for joining us here as a writer and a member of the stage players here.
Thank you. So I just took a second there, just reasons. Yes, I hope to contribute a lot to the radio dramas. Personally, I feel like I've counted some of the radio dramas, and I feel like there's a lot of room to add in more. I mean, who wants something like war? Who wants something so realistic in their radio that it actually makes them think there's a real new nuke being launched on Jade Cove? I sure as hell would.
There you go. But thank you for joining us here tonight and at the PressCorps. And Robert Spark jumping in here at the last moment. Robert, returning member of the PressCorps and whatnot. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Geoffrey. I just love being on your shows, you know. You're such a confident speaker and whatnot. And 9-time winner of the Geoffrey Jennings Excellency in Journalism.
Yeah, I have not endorsed that, but that's okay. Thank you again for joining us. It's been a blast, and it will continue to be a blast through all your various works. How's the Hands of Callahan coming along? Just a casual update on that. Don't feel too pressured.
Oh, I actually did want to bring this up. Thanks for giving me a nice way to plug my radio drama. It's coming along nicely. For those of you who don't know, I've been working on this 7th iteration of a radio drama I've been writing for the PressCorps, like the radio dramas Rod's done so far. It's basically, well, I won't spoil much about it, but I will say that it currently, the first episode is done, and the second episode is almost done. It just needs to be proofread. And I'm starting to gather resources, voice actors and whatnot. If you're interested in voice acting or editing or anything else with the radio dramas, please, at any time during or after this show, just send me a message, and I'll just not say much during the conversation and talk to you about what potential opportunities there. I'm always looking for more people to help with the radio dramas. It is a very nice and fun experience, and you don't need to be a professional. You just need to be willing to do it and willing to have fun.
I've noticed that consistently is that being a professional has absolutely nothing to do with what we do. Not at all, but simply a resilience and a willingness to learn and how to do things. We certainly continuously try to make things happen, and sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but the most important thing is that people certainly do try around here, and that's something I will never, ever, ignore. But regardless, we'll get to our calls very, very shortly, but just want to make a quick shout out to the Goddamn Sex Robot being a community member who has created the layout that you see before you here today. All the doohickeys, all the bottom scrolling, the fancy Zero Dark neon logo for our show, the on-air, the Telegram-esque chat box, all of that created by a single person, the Goddamn Sex Robot. So shout out to him, as well as his work on foxholetech.net. Yes, there you go, foxholetech.net.
Yeah. Also, Goddamn Sex Robot, you can, if you encounter him in game, his actual in-game username is Automatic Hydromatic.
Well, there you go. But yes, you know what? We'll get right into our calls here. It's become a long-standing tradition, it seems, with no enforcement by me whatsoever. But our first call here tonight, coming from Spots, the Legionnaire. Thank you so much for calling in. Welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps. How are you, Spots?
Yep, I'm doing good. I'm just enjoying my time. I'm just checking out the Discords because I'm bored, and my actual mic is dead, so I have to use my phone.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for literally calling in to the show tonight. What do you have for us? Any stories or war stories? Yeah, go ahead.
I was actually talking about this with the boys up in the lounge. We were talking about like armored cars and stuff. How they, if you ever actually know more like this. I stopped playing Foxhole for a little bit because I'm on a little bit of a hiatus, enjoying my time playing other games right now. But there's some features in other games that are pretty interesting, like the idea of I'm a guy who's more interested in the armor aspect, but I'm not that good at it. But
fair enough.
But the thing is that there's a lot of things in the armor things that should be improved over time, like in real life. How like in real life we improved our vehicles over time. In Foxhole we have that, but we should improve our other models of vehicles as well. Like take for example the armored car. It's useless at late game unless you're doing partisans. Then it's actually pretty decent until you get blown up by an RPG or two. Mm-hmm. But the thing of the matter is that
I wouldn't say it would be straight up useless. I might say it becomes more niche and less effective as time goes on, which is a natural state of things considering you have battle tanks rolling around in the very late game. But you go on.
Yeah, so there's if you ever remember the trailer about the dev stream, they're talking about adding a 30mm gun in the game for
the bunkers
anti-tank weapon.
Right.
In real life, I'm taking this off of the French example because the colonial armored car feels like the French armored car. Feels like a French or like early AMD Think 35 armored car. It has the same feel as it. I think it should have like a late game variant where it's going to cost a little bit more, where you can, instead of having 2 light machine guns, you get one 30mm cannon as an anti-tank weapon. Single shot anti-tank, something like the new AT gun. But I'm more interested in this. I was looking today in the Discord on VOD, and they're finally integrating the home regions.
Yes, that was just revealed 4
Thank
hours
you.
ago.
That's something that should have been. Finally, the entire world is interactive. in my opinion, here's how it's gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna spawn in. You can go spawn in at the home region, and when the war starts, instead of teleporting, you can actually walk to the war ground. Actually, you can drive up to the war, or you can just teleport. I'm not sure how it's gonna work yet. I haven't watched the dev stream yet. Did they elaborate?
Well, they didn't really go into it at all. It was more so a very early concept and just a signal direction of where they were going with the idea. So hardly any details whatsoever, and I don't think. But yeah, go ahead.
But I think if they do add it, there's two ways you can do it: the teleportation method or the rumored train method. If you remember trains, guys.
Yeah, it gets talked about every so often.
Yeah, the trains. Possibly this gives a new purpose for trains in the game.
Possibly.
But one thing that I'm finally happy about is, have you ever played the game and you're going around and, oh god, the trenches are not connected up and your OCD just goes mad? If you ever had that moment?
I don't know, anyone else here have that?
All the time.
I just see it, somebody dig a trench in defensive lines and I start running it over with a truck because, as you all know, trenches are made that way. If you build trenches in defensive, your enemy takes them and uses it against you. So basically, you either want to organize them into fighting positions, or if trenches are randomly digged, you just run them over.
I like the new connecting trench feature they're gonna add. But one thing that I'm actually pretty interested in is the Iris revamp. I've actually one of the people who love the Iris.
This is the Iris in Tempest Island.
Tempest Island. Yeah, Tempest Island. I'm referring to that region. When I was playing back in the day, like back before Tempest Island was connected to the mainland, that map was just bloody fun because it was balanced. It was a really good map because it was basically split north to south with one port base at the top, one port base still exists, one port base in the middle. It felt like a smaller region, felt like the game but smaller basically.
Yeah.
A good area it has everything in the game: open fields, urban combat, and small little villages.
Well, it would be certainly interesting to see what they have planned for it in depth. Remember, keep in mind that this revamp was kind of made out of necessity, because according to the dev stream, if I heard that right, Update 26 more or less made the region unplayable, so they added some fixes. And then the upcoming update, Update 33, because of the things they added to make it compatible with 26, it is now incompatible with the upcoming 33rd update. So this kind of opportunity forced by necessity for the region. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Already some controversy, some typical Reddit controversy on it's gonna buy us colonials more. Personally, I have not had much time. Has anyone here had much time to really sit down and look at that map? The proposed changes initially.
I actually think it's actually going to improve the map in the long term because it is a colonial region and it's going to actually make it a little more fun because we're going to get a new bridge. New bridges by the looks of things. A new bridge in the south, which is going to, and Iris is going to be moved up northwards with a rock protecting the other way. So it's like something like Abandoned Ward, but with two rivers running around it. The new Iris, basically. It's the same Iris, but it's going to be a little bit more tougher to take, like how it should have been.
All right. Well, we'll see how it pans out. Spots, thank you so much for joining us here.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Coming up next, we have 1CFD's Wolfie. Wolfie, welcome to Zero Dark PressCorps. Welcome back. I should note that every time we pull someone in, I have no idea the conversations that are happening in the channel above us. So, so people are most likely coming in mid-sentence. So my apologies. So welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps, Wolfie. How are you?
I'm good. Finally, because of my 8-hour time difference, it's currently 3 a.m. here, and because I'm on break, I finally get to be on Zero Dark.
Thank you so much.
Frankly, because I have nothing else to do, but I'm here.
I miss those days. But anyway, Wolfie, what'd you have for us here? Any stories about the 46th, the upcoming 47th, or just general things in your life? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Let's just hope my family doesn't invade me like the fucking. Oh, sorry for swearing. Like the
That's fine.
Foxhole developer player roundtable. Yeah, the opening thesis was a mess. But anyway, I was gonna talk.
That whole
about
discussion was a mess. Don't worry about it. My moderating was a mess. But anyway, go on.
I was gonna talk about an issue about Foxhole, but I think we had enough of those today. I'll keep it for Reddit, honestly. And because 1CMD doesn't really do PressCorps like submissions at all.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I'll just give you guys a little war story, and
sure.
we're pretty much, I guess you could say, while it lasted, we were the clan, the colonial clan, by the way, that held down Fisherman's Row from Warden invasion for as long as it did. So the tale goes like this: gas is probably the strongest thing in the game. It is the best thing to use against trenches. When my clan was there, we probably held it down for about a week or so, maybe even a bit longer than that. And and after that experience, I can just say that gas is probably one of the most useful things in the game. And even if they remove the gas howitzer, like the gas grenades are still good as well. Because people are having so much fun with trenches, the gas is just you just toss a gas in there, and they usually do not have a filter or anything. People are starting to move to foxholes and trenches and those kind of layouts, but still, like the gas just dominates. Kind of deviated, but that's just kind of a tip for anybody watching. The story goes like this, really. Partisan Island was a massacre. The Wardens, they just kept coming. Time and time again, every single day I would log in, there's an attack on Partisan Island in the north. There's always an FOB there. Wardens have whatever they have at the time. And one CMT, we pretty much, this is probably, I don't know if I can say this term, but I guess we could say we were Somali pirates in a way.
Raiding, I should say.
Yeah, like, I don't know what's with the Wardens, but they really love to build their farms really close to the coast. So we just got a bunch of SMGs, made a firing line on a barge, and then just drove up and be like, "Hey, Wardens!" And we just shot it down time and time again. One was with a satchel, and the other we were just gunning it down. They tried to have some partisans around Blackwell. We chased them down with some, I wouldn't say an advanced technique, but something that people don't really know about. Some partisans are smart and can stay out of radio coverage, but really, because they have the orange structure thing when it's being attacked, you could always catch them out. So there was these couple of guys that were doing it. I don't know if it was Half-Blood or someone else, but I just saw them myself, and I can tell you this: partisans, at least most of the time in my experience, are just not that good. I'm speaking.
There is an art to it. There is a very fine art to it that most people don't have the patience to work out. But once you do work it out, once you do get that timing right, that map reading right, that kind of feel for the environment, also just pure luck. Let's not kid ourselves. Pure luck.
Yeah.
But once you get that down to a science, you are a very dangerous asset indeed. Especially apparently if you're doing it by water. That's something a lot of people don't expect.
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't expect naval. It's really strong to do it especially because. Like, I don't like how Cronus openly preaches about how much he likes freighters, because if Warden hears that, you know he's gonna get a gunboat and come for his ass. Like,
yeah, I see too being colonials who rely on the supplies of those freighters. I can see that, yeah, being a little bothersome. So
yeah, it is, and I mean, I know there are partisans though. There's definitely I don't know their names, but I definitely know Father Lemons, I believe his name is. He's really good.
Has anyone ever heard that name? Father Lemons.
Father Lemons from Colonials, I have heard too.
I know Father Lemon, so he's a warden, I think. Yeah, he's definitely
Yes.
a warden.
Yeah, he is.
Irate.
Yeah. Well, Wolfie, how long did you say you were the one raiding or the one warding off attackers?
Warding off attackers.
You're the one warding off attackers.
Pretty much all the time. They try to get all around Parson Island. I'm not Parson Island, but all around Fisherman's, really. And and I'm just stating that, hey, one CMD was the one that held them off as long as we did. We pretty much had no other support from any other clan. It was just us. So, like, if there was a huge naval invasion, we would have been screwed. Not like that. That's a classified thing, anyway. But,
Yeah. And what's your best piece of advice for logistics players on how to avoid the perils of the commandos raiding your stuff?
Definitely, I would say always have a weapon. I definitely noticed that there's a lot of clips of players, new and veteran, they just don't have weapons on them. They think that they're doing logistics, but really it's like, you need to have a weapon. And sometimes it's not even for the enemy, it's for your own teammates, but so like definitely having a weapon. I mean, radio is a no-brainer, but that's obviously always something to have. And honestly, I just say that if there's a route that doesn't have radio coverage, do not go there at all. Do not risk it. There's more times than not, there's going to be a partisan taking advantage of that route. And also off-road. I don't know, I mean, this is from my experience. A lot of times people do not watch off-road. I get many times that there's a place that needs to be supplied, but the route is cut off by partisans. I just go off-road and there you go, there's your supplies. I don't really get what's the problem there. Naval invasion, you're screwed. You can't do anything, I'll be honest there.
Naval invasions were designed to be extremely difficult, as they really should be.
Not naval invasion, I mean, but like, I meant when you're doing water lodging and trying to ward off water partisans, you can't. Unless you're doing it by a barge or have like a gunboat with you, which is very costly and time consuming, you can't ward them off by yourself. It's just impossible. They will find you. It's very easy to pinpoint it because of the locations and shipyards and such and such.
Rodney, what were you going to say?
A person that has been doing logic constantly about a good advice I always tell a logistic player is when you are going to do logi, analyze the route you're going to, and if it doesn't have watchtower coverage, take your time and build them. If you're going to see at least one of them destroyed, you will know there are partisans at that line.
I mean, I wouldn't say go to the lengths of, like, building them up, because that can be time-consuming in itself. Like, going over there, I mean, getting the B-mats, going over there, heck, probably partisans are going to destroy your already made watchtowers. It's weird, but that's debatable, really. But, yeah, I mean, that's really the story I have for Fisherman's. And, that's pretty much my war story, because one CMD is kind of not lazy, but it's just that none of us really know about PressCorps. I know about PressCorps, it's just that due to real life obligations, I'm not with the clan when major stuff happens, so we never really do submissions.
We get it. I will say, I'll encourage you and the one CMD and remind everyone else that we do accept regimental ads, regimental advertisements on our radio rotation. So far, we only have advertisements from the 82 DK, the Roughnecks, and the 3rd Battalion. I believe all 3 of those regiments are warden-based. Rodney, are the 3rd warden or colonial?
They are not a lot. They sometimes some of them colonial, some of them play warden.
Okay.
I haven't seen them on colonial.
Mostly they are warden, and some of them, when they go colonial, they just take their tag off.
That's fine. That makes sense. But just their overall outfit trends usually warden. So we've got 3 warden outfits with advertisements in the radio rotation, and we've been sitting here waiting for colonial ones. So don't blame us if you're saying, hey, well, how come we hear warden advertisements all the time? That's on the colonials. We're waiting for them from you guys. All right.
I mean, I'll just come out. I mean, as I know a lot of the Colonial Clan community with my time in Sigil and all of that, I can safely say that the Colonial population is very lacking with talented individuals. I'll be honest. We have really good artists though, but voice actors and a lot of other stuff I just don't see. I'll be honest. Like we have Janeza doing art. We have some other guy in the dev stream featured today that does art. But yeah, I just don't really notice that we have much talented individuals. I wish I could contribute, but honestly, like.
Well, what time frame do you usually? What time frame are you usually in the war? What's your time frame? Usually, generally speaking.
Yeah, usually. So it's usually between probably 7 to 10 p.m. Arabian Standard Time, and then sometimes it could. Arabian Standard Time, yeah.
It's about 8 hours ahead or behind? 8 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So
that is correct.
It may be your specific time zone. That you may not see that personally, but I mean, it's not just you. Certainly, a lot of there has been the perception that there's not as many well-developed colonial outfits, but hey. That's for your team to figure out. Certainly, we encourage good fights out of everyone. So, Wolfie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for staying up so late in order to make the show. We'd really appreciate it.
I do have one more thing to say, if I may. So yeah, I said this in the last or not in the last, but in the Foxhole developer player roundtable about logistics at the end. I rushed it because you juked me saying you were going to end it in 10 seconds and then someone should take the floor. But I just wanted to say again that I honestly feel like the community needs to get its shit together. Like I always see.
In what way? In what way?
Yeah, I'm going to emphasize on that. It's just that I always see like tons of. When it comes to addressing the developers, I always see like so many voices. There's like a voice for tons of new ideas that are either really good or just plain stupid. Then there's like the ones that are like mean. I remember post 26 is bad. Then there's what I mean is that there's just so many voices that say such different things in the community, and really I find it, and I just feel like they should lighten up on the devs a bit, because it's really hard for the devs to pinpoint that way what the hell we actually want to be made.
It's
in my opinion.
Yeah. But then I share a lot of that. I share that sentiment as well to an extent, and it's a very complicated thing. So we'll end on this. Is that I'll say that first and foremost, I've noticed a trend of people on various platforms, either outwardly or subtly, speaking on behalf of thousands of other people. Like, in some cases you'll see, I think I speak on behalf of everyone when I say logistics is broken and everything needs to be dropped and fixed this. I just chose that example out of my head. But really, the thing I'm harping on is the fact that they were, quote unquote, speaking on behalf of everyone. And, you'll see that subtly as well, where they will say that we all think, or so and so. So, and certainly, there's only so many viewpoints you can have, but do keep in mind that try to be as respectful and thorough as you can. And again, there are people who are doing that, but things like using hashtags. Using hashtags, using, spamming the dev stream chat. The one thing you should try to avoid when trying to suggest a change in Foxhole is to treat your viewpoint and push it like a civil rights movement. Don't do that, because it gets really emotional really quickly. And I know for a fact, for the developers, what should be suggestions and discussion turn into demands, and the demands just kind of wash over their eyes, and they just kind of roll their eyes and just kind of lost the whole argument. The whole discussion has become a non-starter. So that being said, certainly there are people who are doing good work in trying to explain fully their viewpoints and properly critiquing the mistakes that the developers have made in the past and may be making. So certainly, it's not a complete one-to-one thing where no one is making good arguments whatsoever. But please try to avoid that. And we'll end on that, Wolfie. Wolfie, go ahead, close it out.
Yeah, I don't know if I fit into that criteria. But I'll just say this: you just hit the nail right on the head. I could have said it better than myself, and I'll just end with this statement that. Sorry to the dev team for all the. I mean, I can't speak for the whole community, but I can definitely apologize myself because I am part of the train that always critiques stuff, and I just want to say sorry to the dev team that we kind of make it harder for you guys. At least that goes in my opinion. I can't speak for the whole community, and thank you guys for making such an amazing game. And thank you PressCorps for getting me in here.
No, Wolfie, thank you so much. Get some sleep. You probably won't, but try.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna sleep after this.
Hey, you go. See ya.
I was writing my Reddit post, but yes.
All right. That was Wolfie. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? I'll survey the room for all of you, and please speak your mind. But what do you think is the biggest glaring mistake that the devs? Let me reword that. What do you think is the biggest issue that needs to be addressed right now that the devs may or may not be addressing at this current moment in time here in January 14? I guess we'll start with Ghoul. Oh, is he talking? Hello?
Hey, Ghoul.
Can't hear you. We'll move on while he fixes his mic. Bolotny, why don't you share?
Generally, the most issue I see right now with a game is not the game itself mechanically, because there are much issues like tech farming and other stuff they fixed. Basically, is how community takes the changes. That is the biggest problem, because everybody thinks a game should be ready on update, and the update must fix something. But what they don't understand is that the development team tries experimenting with stuff, and they can't really take out from the perspective of MMORPG. They can't take something in and see if it works perfectly at the first time. They are basically somewhat of subtle testers, and when they complain about the game too much, the development team starts taking criticism worse and worse and worse, and what's happening is they basically just threw the submission channel of Foxhole in the trash, and community is basically hurting the game itself by complaining each time, and there was a certain point at the war where people complained so much that the development took a decision to stop taking some suggestions, and that was the breaking point, and that's the problem of the community that has to be fixed. Just please take their job a little, just have a little bit more patience. Like, if you see a problem, just make a suggestion and move on. Stop making a social movement against a problem that might be not even a problem at all. You might just see stuff that doesn't suit your playstyle, but that might be even a feature. So just have some patience.
It's a complicated thing from not just what needs to be prioritized, but also what they're capable of, which we don't know. We don't know what the developers are capable of. Certainly, they're capable of a lot, but what I'm saying is what are they capable of in the pipeline, in the time frame of the monthly updates, and certainly long-term projects. So I don't know, when they decide to choose one thing, when they decide to choose one thing to work on, everything else, not everything else, but a lot of other things, they are inherently not choosing other things. So it gets really complicated really fast, and I hate to get into the politics of it. But Robert, were you going to say something?
No, I don't have anything to say on the matter.
That's all right. Ghoul?
I honestly think the only thing that really should get addressed immediately is problem with the border travel.
Sure, so that's like a bug fix, more or less.
How dare you make the game not the way I want? I tell you, I paid you the game for the game. You have to make the game the way I...
Yeah, we'll see. We'll survey. We'll see the rest of these. We'll move on to the next call here, and we'll see who, if anyone else has things that they want to talk about here. So from the Red Cross and the Valayan Legion, or I'm sorry, not the. Yeah, I guess so with the Red Cross, but is Razgriz from the Valayan Legion, the 69th, and the Red Cross. So you are an active bee here. Thank you for joining us here on Zero Dark PressCorps.
Yeah, it's first time.
Yeah, welcome. Did you have anything for us here in terms of war stories from the 46th, hopes for the 47th, or just how the community is in general?
Well, I mean, I joined late 45th. 46 was my first war that I saw all the way through.
Oh wow, so you're new. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, I joined about Christmas.
You joined at the perfect time.
Yeah, I joined. The first thing I joined was the 75th. Then there was fallouts there, so I joined the 69th with some of my friends. Recently we joined a colonial coalition of things, like the Colonial Builder Union, 2nd Guard Corps, and some other guys. We bound ourselves to make the Velian Legion, so it's just a coalition of all of us. So I'm part of that with the 69th, and then I am sort of part of the Red Cross, mostly just because I play just a medic right now. The only times I haven't played medic was when I was a tank commander.
Oh wow! So in your first few weeks, you've already handled tanks, light tank, I'm assuming.
Actually, it was when I was at the 75th and the 45th War. I led 2 storm tanks.
The 2 storm tanks. Okay. Storm tanks or battle tanks? Oh no, these are the relic tanks.
Yeah, the relics.
Wow. Okay, so you got yourself on some really rare things early on in your Foxhole, career. So congratulations. Very envious. Certainly, a lot of people would be. Some veterans who've never even handled a storm tank before. So congratulations. How was that experience for you?
I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, I've watched Foxhole for the longest time, so I kind of understood. When I first got on, I went through the training and everything. I pretty much understood everything. But I got in there and I was like, I want to be a commander, and he was like, okay, sure. So I hopped in there. We rolled up the tanks, and I was just we started trying. It was pretty much the first time I led them. It was a failed assault, but we just kind of sat by a tree line. They kept trying to do howitzers. We could have stormed a town. They chose not to. They were trying to howitzer the town and everything. They built up. We didn't take it. But pretty much, we just kind of sat in a tree line, didn't do much. Second time, we assaulted, it was from West March. We went up past Fort Duncan and assaulted Outwich Ranch. So we just rushed it with the 2 tanks with some infantry running behind us, and we just rolled around the town doing circles, dealing with just wardens at every corner throwing stickies at us. And I'm pretty sure my tank took 20 stickies at least. And then we heard over the radio, they were pull the tanks out. And I was like, we're fine, but okay. And we drive up a road, and we see the other tank, which we had lost communication with, and it was empty. We didn't see any tags, and I was like, alright, well, I had hopped in the driver's seat. So I just said, Gunner, grab the driver, I'm going to hop into there. So I just ran through. There was no fire, surprisingly. And I just hopped in the other tank, we just drove away, and we were fine.
Where was this again?
It was Outwich Ranch in the 45th War.
Outwich Ranch in what region is that? Forgive me.
Lynn of Mercy?
I think, okay, that sounds right. Outwich Ranch, so, wow, okay, that sounded like quite a journey. How long did that engagement, how long did you hold on to that storm tank? How long did you hold on to that storm tank? Oh, did I short out here?
No, he is not responding.
Well, that's okay. Usually a lot of people get microphone problems with trying to connect. We got about 7 people here right now, so as soon as you even approach double digits, Discord tends to completely malfunction. But regardless, Razgriz, if you can't,
I'm back.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, in Outwich Ranch.
I was like, oh, something went bad.
That's all right. It happens. But yeah, in terms of storm tanks and tank commanding, what rank were you, may I ask, when you got your hands on that storm tank for the first time?
I was still a PTE.
so I can imagine. I can already tell by the way you carry yourself. I think you made certainly a competent tank commander and someone who has watched footage of the game, so you're not going into this completely blind. But I can imagine a lot of people were shaking their heads when they saw a private in charge of a storm tank. I can already imagine that predetermination. Go ahead. Yeah.
Most of the 75th was like PTEs, because Ranger just ran around. I mean, like I said, we fell out with Ranger because he did some things, but like most of the 75th at that point was PTEs and people who had just joined during Christmas. So we kind of like quickly trained us up and was like, we have some things here, like use this. We're like, okay. But yeah, most of the people there, we had all been commending each other, and most of them were like a corporal, lance corporal, all that jazz, and I was like the only one who's still a private, and I was like, I led a tank, we did this, I'm still a private, what is wrong? And what's funny is after that Outwitch Ranch assault, he was like, you know, I see you're good with the tank, I want to make you our mechanized commander. And I was like, cool.
I love hearing those stories, and I know that generally speaking, and certainly in just casual conversation, when people hear PTE or private in a storm tank or any kind of tank or armored vehicle, high-valued item, everyone immediately recoils and wants to, inform them of how things work and deep strategies and giving them 50 tips at the same simultaneously. But and I understand that because things are not cheap in Foxhole, both in time and materials. But every now and then you have these opportunities, these high pressure opportunities where people can prove themselves. So Razgriz, thank you so much for proving that it is possible for someone to just kind of jump in and do some work.
I was just happy that he was like, yeah, sure, just grab a pair of binocs. I was like, yes.
Well, did you have anything else for us?
I mean, not much besides the fact of the PressCorps is cool, and I don't know if people have talked about it before, but like trenches, like tier 1 trenches are kind of annoying.
In what way?
Like I know, I was talking with some of my friends when we were doing, it was one of the battles, I forget where it was. But we had like 3 trucks suicide ram us, and it just took out like 15 people all at once.
Trucks, just basic
great.
Trucks.
Just basic Warden trucks just slammed through the trenches, and it was just taking them out because tier 1s can be ran over like that.
And no one was shooting at the trucks?
Oh, we were, but it was the forward trenches, because we had just taken them, and they were like, screw it. So they just threw some trucks at us that were empty. And I mean, we shot them, so they couldn't get any more, but they got 3 trenches before we got them down.
Huh.
And it was just a lot of people. But then we all started talking, we were like, what if trenches were like actually like in the ground and harder to run over? Or just something like that. Like, we started talking about how like tier 1 trenches, all trenches, the truck should be caught in it. Like, its wheel should drop in, it should be caught, like they do in tier 2s or something like that. And the only way to like break a tier 1 trench would be to roll a tracked vehicle over it. Like something like a heavy tank is gonna like collapse all that wood and just drop it in. And a tier 2 is just gonna damage it, but like tracked vehicle should easily just be able to roll over and be fine. Unless it's a tier 1, then it should just smash.
I do know for a fact that, and I know you've just arrived into the Foxhole scene more or less, but I do know that the Unreal Engine that Foxhole works off of does not have any terrain alteration capabilities, at least in a live instance. So obviously when you're developing, sure, but when you're actually playing the game, it's not a possible thing. So the fact that so according to the developers, the fact that they were able to implement trenches at all was a pipe dream just not too long ago, and a huge accomplishment this past December. So I think how they work currently, kind of being a hole in the ground. That's what they are, aren't they? But I think in terms of genuine terrain deformation, as opposed to kind of a structure that has a below surface component, I don't think we're reaching that anytime soon. I don't think that's even in the cards. That would be very complicated. But certainly, making trucks not being able to instantly destroy and kill everyone in a Tier 1 trench, that's certainly something to consider. So, Razgriz, thank you so much for joining us here, and good luck to you as you in your Foxhole career out there.
Thank you.
All right, go. Rod, how are you doing? You just joined us. Oh. Can't hear you. Can't seem to hear you. I do wonder if this is a Discord problem, but we are under the threshold that we've set. Rod, we cannot hear you. He does not seem muted, so I don't think it's coming through. Now, I know a lot of the PressCorps here do have very fancy audio setups because, just because what we do in terms of recording, reporting, and playing back a lot of our programs, it's not easy. I know I have downloaded here under the console, the recording console, an application called Voice Meter Banana, which I think some people might be familiar with out there. Voice Meter Banana allows me to play radio while hosting interviews on Discord and playing back YouTube videos, but not playing it over the radio. Having them separate and being able to work with Adobe Audition in the background of all of that, while again not playing it over the radio. It's a very complicated setup that it's taken me more or less a year to actually get down. So that's exactly what we're dealing with, a lot of us here in terms of our setup and our workstations. So while Rod works out his audio issues, we're going to move on to our next caller here, Stranger Days. Stranger Days, welcome back to Zero Dark PressCorps. How are you?
Well, I'm doing pretty alright. Good war. Did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you want to go
use a Volta.
A Volta?
Yes, I actually was there for the opening of 2 vaults, or 2 of the second doors of the vaults. We actually managed to steal the entirety of the second layer of the, Drowned Veil Vault, while the Collies were actually taking over the back.
For some context, because our listeners may not be familiar with this, so the vaults are, it sounds like Fallout, but the vaults are unmarked areas of the game space where behind them are relic vehicles, correct?
Yes, sorry, Mike just disconnected.
That's fine. We're getting a lot of that this evening. Don't worry. And there are multiple layers to each vault. I'm assuming that have.
It's actually RNG. So from what I understand, every vault has the first layer. So every vault will have not storm tanks, AFTs, relic trucks, and the staff card. The second layer of the vault is on less of them, but still a greater number. The third layer of the vault is only on like 2, maybe 4 vaults in the entire war. And there are an even number of vaults in North and South.
Okay.
There are actually 2 in Deadlands for that reason.
Alright, and these were present in the last 2 wars, the 46th and the 45th, correct?
These were present in the last 2 wars. They were not there previously. I sort of like to think of them as a Christmas gift from the devs in a very literal sense.
And we will
Wraps and everything.
Well, were they in the same place between the 2 wars?
Yes. They did not change locations.
Huh. Well, at least not yet. We'll see. Maybe they were just consistent for those last 2. So the thing about the relic vehicles, if you're just hearing about this for the first time and how they function currently, the developers are giving no information whatsoever. They've actually just acknowledged it this past afternoon. And they want to keep it a mystery, kind of keep it as an X factor in how they function, which personally I'm a huge fan of. I know a lot of people, they want all bits of information immediately released and everything detailed extensively before they even hit the live shard. But that throwing in that X factor is very interesting. So you had a hands-on experience with the armored fighting tractors and storm tanks, I believe.
I've had a hands-on experience with everything except for the heavy infantry carrier, just because I was not there for the last day of the war.
Yeah, what was your experience with these relic vehicles?
So, relic vehicles, your average armored guy will hear unrepairable and just sort of flip their table and decide that relic vehicles aren't worth their time. I have found that relic vehicles are actually one of the most overpowered things in the game. The relic truck, for example, now moves about the same speed as your regular Velagi truck, and it can take 3 belts of MG ammo before it gets disabled.
This is the relic truck.
Yes, the relic truck, the
It's
Logi
a souped-up version of the regular truck. So, yeah, that sounds very, very enticing for any logistics personnel. Okay.
I'm pretty sure at that point it could actually take a single RPG and keep moving. Imagine a partisan comes out the bush, says ooga booga, launches a rocket-propelled grenade at you, and you just keep trucking past. I have gas mask filters to deliver present.
And that person's been waiting there for the past 20 minutes.
Yeah. He walked all the way there with an RPG just to try and kill a truck.
Has anyone else had experience with the relic vehicle, the recent iteration of the relic vehicles?
I did. I was a partisan against the relic truck. Actually,
so can you
against?
Yeah, go ahead.
What you do against the relic truck, you place a roadblock and make it go on the side of the road so it goes slower. And you run around in circles and shoot it with an SMG. And it goes down eventually.
Eventually.
Lot more rounds than usual. However, Dan, were you gonna say something?
A lot more rounds.
Well, this wasn't necessarily a relic vehicle, but you know the unexploded ordnance they used to open the vaults?
Those things are absolutely hilarious to carry around.
Actually, that's a good question. How do you open these vaults?
So you open them with the unexploded ordnance. There is around a 0.5% chance whenever you dig a trench, I believe when you finish digging a trench for that matter, that you get an unexploded ordnance.
You can also dig out vault RP.
So to be clear,
I've heard that, I haven't seen it yet.
You cannot open a vault through any regular ordnance you can make at a factory. It has to be a special item that drops by chance.
Yes. I've seen unconfirmed reports that apparently either vaults decay or maybe their damage mitigation lowers as time goes on or other things like that. I am uncertain as to what it is, but I have seen reports wherein somebody has used an ordnance on a vault, it's done like 3% damage, and then other people used ordnance on a vault and it went down a full 20%. So either it could be people bullshitting, or that could be something to look out for later on in the war. Vaults open a lot quicker.
It's a very tricky thing because as soon as we figure out what how these things work, there's a very good chance they will have already changed. All the numbers, all the locations, all the conditions may have already changed. So again, this is going to be an X factor that's probably going to permeate this upcoming year, Foxhole.
I will tell you though, these relics do change up the way you fight, much how the old relic vehicles did, but I'd say even more so. Storm tanks, for example, are something that has been a point of contention. People absolutely abhor its off-road speed because it's like even less than a single kilometer an hour, more or less. Like, its off-road speed is absolutely laughable. But on-road, it moves relatively fast. It still has its relatively good reverse speed off-road. And we were able to tank 12 shots from an AT turret, and we were still moving. So that's insane. I could easily see a clan or an armored group of any sort just using a storm tank as a literal battering ram, aggroing turrets and popping them.
Actually, about vaults, I was thinking about that unexploded ordnance explodes really similarly to how a storm cannon shoots. So somebody should try to fire a storm cannon straight into the vault. Maybe it will deal damage.
Can I tell my story now?
Yes.
Okay, so it's this early, when the unexploded ordnance was a new thing. No one knew what it was. And there's just one in FOB, and they're butt-filled crowded around the entrance as always. So one guy picks it up as what is this? And clicks on it, setting on the ground and, detonating it, and it killed, 5 people.
And it didn't do anything.
Yeah, I just wasted it.
Just exploded.
How does it set? Is it like a satchel charge? You gotta set it down right in front of you?
It's a satchel. The only difference is the way that you carry it. You literally carry it like over your shoulder, like a shell. Which brings to mind the meme where two men. Yeah, it brings to mind the meme where two men carrying bombs accidentally tink their shells together. It's like a old World War II gif.
Right. Okay.
There's another thing I'd like to mention. I've heard that you can apparently find the Volta repeaters through digging trenches and just randomly appearing there. I have no idea if this is true.
What are the Volta repeaters?
The Ram Ranch repeater rifle, the Vibe check cannon. It puts golf ball-sized holes through people, not in them, through them.
What is the official name? What is their official name?
Their official name, so there are the Voltas, and I believe there's also a variant in the southern region for Colonials, which is the Mezen. I don't know if that's actually confirmed. It may just be the Voltas, but I remember both of them popping up.
As far as I know, they're only Volta repeaters.
What do you mean a southern region? Because I was in Round Vale and I was digging out a trench that was run over, and I dig out a Volta repeater. So if Round Vale is considered a southern region, then no, those dumps are this.
Wait, were you a Warden or a Colonial?
Colonial.
Okay, then never mind. Apparently there aren't Mezen repeaters. I remember somebody saying that there were both.
Well, I'm looking at the Wikipedia article for a Volta repeater, and it says it's an old war Mazian rifle in good condition.
Oh, that's probably where it came from then.
Alright, so
in the description I'll come to.
The details are not very clear, as they are intended to not be, or intended to be, and certainly things can easily change on a dime in between wars, so everything we're uncovering and spreading right now could very well be incorrect by the time the next war rolls around, but we can confirm that there are relic vehicles, there have been for a while, and there are relic weapons as well, handheld weapons that apparently can be found and used. So we'll leave it at that. Stranger Days, did you have anything else for us?
Nah, just one final message of if you get yourselves a Volta repeater, keep that shit. Voltas are the best thing ever. Nothing will compare to wielding God's revolver like a man.
Does it come with ammunition?
It does not come with ammunition, but it uses standard rifle ammo, and it can also use a bayonet and frag grenade launcher, just like a standard rifle.
I had no idea of that.
Yes, they are
What do you
glory.
mean, that it uses standard rifle ammunition?
Yes.
Yeah.
7.6.
And it used a whole lot of structure damage for some reason, like 5%.
I haven't tried the structure damage, but it will down in a single shot every time.
I'm wondering how many it takes to disable a half-track. If you have a horde of people with Voltas, can you just chase down a half-track like Tusken Raiders?
I remember hearing that someone with pistols destroyed a half-track. I think that, very early on when they were introduced, I think that they had just had like 18 guys with pistols absolutely demolish a half-track.
That sounds hilarious.
Yeah, so if pistols can do it, then I'm pretty sure a Volta repeater, in enough numbers, would definitely make it.
I have an actual story about Volta repeaters back at the war 45, I think.
We'll end with that one.
We'll let somebody else pop in. Y'all have a wonderful time.
Yeah, thank you. So, Stranger Days, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, it was nice to be here.
Alright, actually, so Bolotny, while you tell your story, we're going to let Lek in, because he's our next caller, and I'm going to step away, because I have, a couple things to... I know, I feel bad, because... I feel bad because Lex wanted to talk to me about a few things, but I actually do have to step away for a little bit. So I'm just gonna let.
Trust me, I'm hardly prepared to talk to you about those things. So whatever.
All right. Well, I'll let the rest of the Corps guide the show along. So Lek, go on for it.
Howdy, it's Lek. What's up?
Nothing much. How was the 46 conflict for you?
Quite weird, honestly. Didn't put nearly as much time into the 45th or into the 46th as I did the. personally on the basis of it's the war after an update war, so of course it's going to be like all the colonials like taking a small break, because that's literally the pattern that happens is update war, all the vets come back, colonials win, colonial vets take break, wardens win the second war. That's how almost all of these goes. So like I typically take the attitude of I don't care about like the outcome of a war, but that was especially apparent here. I did a couple bits of just like general combat, some like tank stuff, but I don't know. This war was we're creeping back into that pattern of just kind of like lack of comebacks due to resource issues and lack of comeback mechanics with way too many snowball mechanics. I don't know.
Right. So you'd say that the snowball effect is back and here to stay. Mostly
because of the efficiency system and the resource and just the lack of enough resource nodes, raw resource nodes, on the backline maps. Because it's kind of like I say the efficiency system, and the reason why when you have more resource nodes, you typically get more upgrade part income. More upgrade part income means that you can take more territory on average, as well as and the thing is that when you have to when both sides are being effectively slammed by efficiency system the same way for pushing the same amount, but one side has more because they have more territory, and the way that you make a comeback and improve your income of upgrade parts is to take more territory when the enemy already has more territory due to that territory that they took, and it's just a compounding issue from there, where you have less, so you have less, and the enemy has more, so they have more, and it's just kind of a silly blanket nerf that doesn't really help the losing side at all, and mostly just makes everyone grumpy.
Right.
Weren't you with us, SIR, back in that backline raid in the middle of the territory? Or that wasn't you?
Wait, which backline territory? Was it me or was it Leak?
Maybe Leak, maybe not you, maybe I'm
Yeah, I wasn't really super active this war, especially not in the backline. I did more backline stuff in 45, and I was part of the group that tried to nuke whatever that Elksford, I think, whatever the site was with the advanced ammo factory. I tried to nuke.
Were you colonial or warden for this war?
I'm a loyalist, colonial loyalist, though I don't really give a shit about faction politics. I don't know. I'm good with the old goblins and just the jokes and shit, but I don't know. I don't like people that take it too far or get
Right. Let's not get too into that. Let's not get into too much into that aspect. You were talking about the net gain of upgrade parts depending on how many resource nodes you have. This reminds me actually of this conversation that the devs had with a few warden clan leaders. It was a long time.
Oh right, I know the conversation you're talking about because what was it? It was either Eagle Sword or someone in CL had actually mentioned, hey, they had invited me, but then not invited me, but they had offered it, and then I'd said, yeah, if all your lads are okay with it, and then they checked, and then they were like, no, we can't have him, and then that never happened.
I'm talking. That one reminds me of a specific conversation topic that they had.
Oh, okay, so this is something else.
Yeah. This is not about you specifically. This is about the topic that you were talking about, which is the U part scarcity. Now, one of the things that relates to is the idea of specific time zones not being able to access certain.
That's. Oh god! Don't get me started.
So the respawn rate, instead of being once a day, being more than once a day at least, in order for other time zones to be able to access.
It's just a reset at one time, where it goes back to very high. It's that on top of a bunch of other.
Not just the efficiency itself, but the resource nodes as a whole.
Having
those resource nodes respawn with all of the available resource which also grants the possibility
only like every 6
of
hours, right?
getting a U part. Yes.
Yeah. Wait, like, how do I feel on that?
Your talk about this lack of U parts brings about the question: would an increased number of respawns per day on those resource nodes, would that be enough to balance out the war when it comes to these moments of snowball mechanic?
What I'm personally in favor of is slightly decreasing the amount of resources in every resource node, and then multiplying the amount of resources we already have by like 1.5, making there a lot more nodes, just not having them in clusters kind of thing, so they're not all in one location, but they're like clustered in like, okay, there's a bunch of component nodes in southeast Heartlands, or there's there's a lot of sulfur on that one island in like Godcroft or whatever, and like shit like that, where they wouldn't be like, they'd be like 50 meters apart each, but there would be more of them, as well as like slightly decreasing the time it like respawns, or some way like that, or just like, this is I'm more of a stickler for the U-part thing. I think the times are already short enough at 6 hours that the time zone thing isn't really as much a factor for that as it is the efficiency thing. But there is an idea been floating around regarding like resource nodes, and it's just kind of boring, how like, if you want to visit the lore or see the sites, you've got to go out of your way to do that. There's so much eye candy if you just go off the beaten trail, so to speak. And you don't really get to experience any of that if you're just doing lodge. You're just like, sure, when you're driving to the front, but you don't get to see that stuff that's off to the side. I think it would be cool if there was like, if part of the like, well, when do you spend the most time in the back line? When doing lodge scrapping or like,
in order to not go into a tangent, let's maintain the main topic, okay? Because if we go into a tangent, we'll be here forever. One thing that I would like to ask, and I think this, if it doesn't relate to the topic at hand, I would like my PressCorps associates to also remind me. But this entire conversation relies on the idea that, and not idea, but the fact that there are snowball mechanics in place, right? There is a point where a faction is no longer able to fight back in an effective way to turn the war around, and it's just kind of like beating a bleeding horse instead of beating a dead horse. The war will be over no matter what you do. It's just a matter of waiting for it to be done, which, as we know, causes a lot of people to just log out and wait for the next war, which makes it so that there are global queues in order to prevent, overpopulation on one side or the other. The question that I would like to ask to every single one of you here is, first, should there be comeback mechanics? And the question I ask is that because should a faction's victory be undermined by an artificial comeback mechanic that just allows the other side to regain territory even though they haven't defeated the other faction, quote unquote? Now, if that is the case, I would like to hear everyone's opinions on it.
I'll go last because I have a lot to say on that.
Okay, Dan, why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of what you think on this issue?
I don't think there should be like a mechanic that gives you like a big advantage. What I think there should be is like a mechanic that lets you like buy some time and plan out and coordinate some sort of comeback.
Right, so not something that is artificial, like, let's say, ratios and whatnot.
Maybe slightly artificial, but just enough to let you actually survive for a bit longer.
Okay, let's go to Robert. Let's see what you have to say about it.
Truth be told, I just find it very much an annoyance because it wouldn't be so much of a problem in that it's very hard to get upgrade parts to where they need to be because they don't stack and they don't fit in containers either. The most one person can do is travel 15 of them at a time with a truck. 30 if they have a really rare relic truck. And the efficiency system system means that for anything now you need upwards of dozens of view parts, and so a single truck pool will get you nowhere. It really is. It's not just that it's you need a lot of upgrade parts. You need a lot of upgrade parts, and you can't get them to where you need them to go. Which is, I feel like the making a way for you to mass transport upgrade parts, that will help alleviate the issue a bit. But then again, you get into the issue of hoarding and whatnot. But I do think that having actual upgrades be possible is much more worth it than just having people not be able to do anything because of how hard it is to get upgrade parts to where they need.
Right. Bennett, you said that you wanted to
right,
go for it?
Yeah. So, my experience as a new player in like 45, the influx of a lot of new players kind of didn't help, because for me, what I did as soon as I found a U part, I dumped it in your storage box, and yeah, that's it. I never paid attention to it. And I feel like a lot of people did something similar or just dumped it somewhere, so it definitely didn't the whole efficiency issue. And yeah, there was a lot of complaining about that in the game chat. So yeah, that's my cue.
Right. Bolotny, do you have anything specific to say about the topic?
About the U-parts, no. I mostly only do transport lodging when I do this. I avoid scrapping if possible.
Okay. Geoffrey, do you have any insights about the topic at hand? Would you like me to repeat it?
What? Wait, that was not the topic.
Okay, we were talking about Freudian slip, Geoffrey. Come on. We were talking about specificity of artificial comeback mechanics. The idea of whether or not there should be countermeasures in place to fight against the snowball mechanics. Now, if I were to decide between the two, I would say let's just not make any possibility of snowball mechanics. That way we don't need anything artificial such as a comeback mechanic in order for, Wait, hold on, Jeffrey. I'm being told that we can't hear you.
They can't hear you on the set.
Hello, yeah. Okay, so I've completely... Alright, now you can hear me. I can see why. I muted something certain. But I will say that... let me start over, I guess. Is that even though I... starting over. I believe in the sandbox. Therefore, I believe that if you are out-popped, if you are being outsmarted theoretically, if you are being out-strategized theoretically, if someone is, if the other side is beating you in fights based on skill, then yes, you should be snowballed. Of course, the problem is, are the mechanics working in such a way that are they designed to snowball, to allow too much snowballing? First and foremost, before we even think about mechanics to explicitly counter snowballing or counter or allow or kind of artificially introduce a comeback, first of all, you need to think, are the current systems in place, are they allowing snowballing, yes or no? So that's something that has to be considered. Second of all, I'll say that once you do introduce mechanics that specifically and explicitly are meant to counter being snowballed, I'll just use, that's our buzzword for today. You are, at least theoretically, taking away the efforts of the side that is doing the snowballing. Because, yeah, what if the other side, what if certain members of the other side did put in more scrapping hours? What if they're the ones that spent a day strategizing and executing an operation? What if they were the ones who, they're the ones that practiced, squad tactics or how to shoot better? Consider that, because the moment you introduce explicit mechanics to counter anything, or I should say, it's got to push forward comebacks. If you force comebacks artificially, then yes, you kind of take away from the side that was doing the quote-unquote dominating. So it's a very tricky thing, and I understand some level of it may need to be introduced to avoid, really stretching out the inevitable. So I don't know. It's a very difficult thing to consider. I'm sorry for the very scattered thoughts.
Jesus, when people say I talk a lot, I can see why you became a radio host.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got about 1 million things going on in real life and in here as well. So, Lek, I'm so sorry for shifting you of the conversation. Hopefully, you were able to.
No, here's my response to the whole thing. I can sum it up fairly simply. There should not be artificial comeback mechanics. There should be the possibility of a comeback, though. And by what I mean by that is, when you think about making a comeback, you need to put in more effort than your opponent. That is just the nature of a comeback. It is the underdog story. It is like the David over the Goliath. It is fundamentally you have to put in more work. However, I think the problem lies within the question of how much work is reasonable work. I think that currently it requires far too much work to the point of being near impossible to mount a comeback at a point in which you could theoretically, looking at it, you should still be able to theoretically mount a comeback. But it's a combination of upgrade parts and technology being directly tied to land holding, as well as the just unfortunate cases of just way too many resources being concentrated in the middle regions and not enough in the backline regions, that past a certain point you're just starved. And while yes, that there should be a strategical advantage for taking specific regions with more resources, and especially rare resources like sulfur and components, I think that there needs to be a general change from punishing the side that loses territory, and it shouldn't be about punishing the losers. It should be more about rewarding the winners. You should be rewarded for taking more territory in the early game, but that doesn't mean that it should lock out and exponentially decrease the chances of a victory for the enemy team to the point of being completely unreasonable for any sane person.
If I may, one little addendum to make to the entire line of thought. I've been seeing the thought circulating around of either mercy rules or a faction-wide vote for an early war surrender or forfeit. Now, whether or not a faction would be able to unite enough to have enough people, a majority, to actually end the war, we give up. Let's go for the next one.
The amount of downsides that would come with such an idea far outweighs the benefits that ending it would have. Sure, you'd please the majority in each case of the vote, but you'd still like leave a bitter taste of resentment for whichever side is the majority in the matter.
I wouldn't even say it would get that far in terms of the of the frustration, because just the mechanics of how voting would work in a game such as this is an absolute mess. Because it's been talked about in terms of not to tangent, but how any kind of faction-wide voting, say for electing a faction-wide leader or council of leaders, is just an absolute mess of a topic the moment you put any kind of thought into the detail of it. So I guess it is simplified when you're talking about a faction-wide surrender, which was a thing before, which was possible 2 years ago, before World Conquest, before the First War.
I honestly don't remember that. Is that sad or is that good? Damn, I'm going senile.
No, that's fine. Honestly, it's gone through so much change. I actually
like a boomer.
I looked up old footage of the first time I attempted the PressCorps about 2.5 years ago, and my goodness, was everything different then. But anyway,
really digging deep in the archives.
I really am. But to answer Rod's question, I don't. That's a very, very tricky thing that would require a whole other mechanic onto itself in order to even tackle. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like a week ago, people were talking about the master thing and how it should be like voted on. I was gonna say this is gonna be dominated by like clan crowd mentality. So it is not gonna be like the, how do I say it?
It would honestly take one vote that's like pretty divisive, where it's like, no, we still have a chance, or no, we have, or like people, like let's say that like there's a lot of people, let's say the vote is to not surrender, then you'd get a fuck ton of people very, like, that have already given up, very angry, because they feel like, okay, well then all these people are denying me the ability to play the game, like, that I want to play with even teams and, like, you know, even keel.
And then the game is already denying everyone the chance to play a game that's fun. As it
the thing is, with that thing of the clan crowd mentality, you're not gonna have like the will of the faction as a whole. You're gonna have the will of a few people.
There's also the question of griefing and all that. Though you typically wouldn't have enough people to make a proper like surrender vote go through. But at the same time, that would lead to some hefty salt. Like if a team just got together like 20 alt accounts and that somehow made the difference in a vote, you'd get, that would be the worst. Just any kind of cross-faction voting would probably be a bad idea.
If that would happen, the Reddit would explode. It would be on fire, like left in shambles.
What if it fell upon the devs? What if it fell upon the devs?
I feel like it already. I think that's already the case. Because the devs have to artificially.
There was a time a while ago where they did the whole like, oh, this war's taking too long. We're gonna lower the amount of victory points needed.
Right, and I think that's still a thing. If the updates don't coincide with the end point of a war, that's always an option. That's always been an option in their pocket that they've used extensively. I guess we just got lucky that it didn't turn out that way recently, but I think that's always something they have in their pocket. The thing is that wars have
been going very shortly, and they've ended very short, like, of their proper potential because of a multitude of reasons that it would take too long to get into right now. I think I've said my piece, and I think we've had a decent conversation on the whole balance and snowball mechanic stuff. So I'm going to head out, and I'm going to say, fuck the PressCorps, biased as fuck!
He's right. No, he's absolutely right. Lek is a garbage human being. Coming up next, LiquidPopsicle, joining us here again from the 128th Artillery Regiment. Liquid, thank you so much for stopping by PressCorps World Headquarters here today. It is an absolute blast for you to come back and return to the show. This is called vamping while I wait for him to activate his microphone and come back to his computer.
Liquid, have my children, I love you.
Liquid! Oh, I didn't realize I was muted.
There you go.
There we go, my microphone was
I think literally every guest tonight.
I apologize.
I think every guest and a couple of PressCorps members have had troubles with their microphones. So blanket amnesty for everyone. Blanket amnesty for everyone. It's okay.
If you, I have a actual piece of advice for you for a second. If you can make a mute lounge where we don't have to listen to all the people yelling at each other about Foxhole drama, that would be absolutely amazing, because then we won't have to come in here deafened.
I should ping. I should say this will also be, because simply where I am, this is going to have to be our last call, which actually works out.
Perfectly,
because you were the last in the call queue. But Liquid, what'd you have for us here?
Well, I think it's about time we talked artillery, and there's one thing that I really, really want to get out there for everybody is that it looks like what the devs are doing is going to help howitzers, but in my experience, from what I can see, and keep in mind, none of us know anything for certain yet, because of course the update's not out, but it looks like all that howitzers have been getting is indirect nerfs, shadow nerfs, things that really only hurt their performance and are giving them FMG syndrome, which is really, really sad for me to see. And I'll explain this a little bit.
Okay.
First off, there's the removal of gas shells, which I understand why the devs did it. But now you have howitzers here sitting in a disadvantage with only 2 shell types, while every other weapon type has at least 3 or 4. The gas shells were very, very potent. They were one of the main tools that kept the howitzer in the game, late game. Now they are gone. On top of that, howitzers are becoming shippable items, which, and a lot of people might go, whoa, 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 how is that a bad thing? But those are also the same people that roll up to a front line, see 5 or 6 howitzers in the same place, all over the place, because people build howitzers for every 10 meters of ground they gain, and go, well, it'd be nice if we could move those. But here's the issue with this. They're not concerned about how those howitzers are getting to the front line. As an artillery clan leader, I know firsthand that if howitzers have to be built at production facilities, the only way we can guarantee having what we need is starting at the back line, getting 3 or 4 flatbeds at minimum, which we may not have the armats for, to get all of the howitzers built and shipped to the front line, only for them to be very, very quickly destroyed, because their range is myopic and their health is abysmal. And the reason for that is because, of course, you could hammer them out with a CV with 150 BMATs, but now, unless they do something to improve the howitzer's performance, it is not going to be able to stack up with any of the other forms of artillery, because it's not going to be potent for the amount of time it takes to get one. Very, very similar to the FMG. And lastly, what has me really concerned is this new AI artillery they've proposed. Of course, I don't know how many of you have watched the dev stream yet, but this is a new bunker piece that is going to act as an automated counter battery. It only is going to attack, much like the AV turret, much like any other bunker piece, where it will fire when fired upon. But what that means is that, once again, howitzers at a very, very strict disadvantage, because FA and mortars, the 2 primary culprits of backcapping and town hall sniping, which is what this is intended to prevent, are very, very precise. And if they so choose, they can very easily avoid damaging this counter artillery to prevent it from shooting at them. They don't have to shoot it. And keep in mind, with bunkers, they require both a generator and a town hall connection to function. So if you snipe the generator or the town hall, that counter already goes down and you're free reign. With howitzer,
Liquid, if I
you
may,
can't choose where you shoot. You
Liquid,
just kind of have to hope.
There is there's one thing that is wrong about that. The AI, the counter AI, the Howie AI, will shoot. The reactive fire will be activated by any part of its connected bunker network being attacked that is a garrison. So if a rifle garrison, if the town hall, if anything gets attacked that is connected to that trench network, the counter Howie will shoot upon that.
I have confirmed with KSC, I don't know if I misunderstood him, but that is only with connected bunker pieces. Trench networks do not count.
Yes,
Other bunkers that are connected with trenches do not count.
But the trenches connect the bunkers, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, yes, the trenches connect the bunkers, but the trenches will not connect the aggro.
Yes. That is
so. And there's no one in their right mind that's going to try and put a large number of the AI howitzers next to the generators, because the generators absolutely mutilate the structural integrity of bunkers. It becomes really, really easy to destroy them once you put a generator in it. And people like to keep generators in the back line anyway. So generators are still a very easy target to snipe. So are town halls. Once they go down, this new counter artillery is completely useless. And with the howitzers, of course, mortars FA, you can target foxholes, pillboxes, trenches, anything that's fairly close to this new artillery piece without having to worry too much about getting shot back. With howitzers, you have a good 15-20 meter no engagement zone, because if one of your shots goes wide and splashes it, you're done for. It is going to hunt you down, and it is going to kill you, and there is nothing you can do about it. And I'm really, really concerned for what this means for this next update.
Well, as leader, right, of an artillery regiment, that's I'm not surprised. That's high on you. You are the leader, right, of the 128th?
Yes, I am the leader of the 128th.
I'm not surprised at all that this is high on your concerns list. I think that it's really tricky because we are in a clear state of transition, and because you focus
100%,
so much,
yes,
because the whole livelihood, I should say, of your entire outfit hinges on the use of this one, maybe two pieces of weaponry. So I can see why you're very concerned, and I think. Just from my assessment, because I don't really talk with the devs. I don't really know what they're. I can see their minds really. I see just as much as you do. But
remember what happened to all those tank clans when they made tank more expensive?
Yeah.
And they just disappeared. That's what's going to happen.
And I think this has been slowly happening with the 128th, unfortunately. But yeah, I think we're just in a huge state of transition as we kind of reckon with the introduction of this brand new trench system. Does anyone remember when, like a month ago, when the devs first revealed Operation Hammer?
I was so excited.
This is
extremely excited.
Which one?
Operation Hammer.
The trench update, when they first debuted the system that they'd come up with.
I believe this is the big thing that operation was working towards. Not confirmed, but I'm pretty confident this was the big thing, just based on what they've been talking, how they've been talking about the trench update and then the struggles to get it together. Yeah, so we're in a very interesting time right now for builders in particular, but yes, to an extent as well, howitzers, because we have trenches, we have trench networks in this whole new system. Well, at the same time, we also have traditional foxholes, gun nests, pillboxes, and what have you. So, and then I think we're just one by one slowly seeing them kind of folded into the trench system, where my prediction, just my own educated guess, is that we may not even see standalone pillboxes and gun nests and foxholes, and possibly in the 6 months from now, which would be hilarious if we don't have foxholes anymore. Or maybe they'll just rename a certain trench structure.
I could see them adding in a new type of foxhole that is maybe not even AI, but a man defense that's literally just a hole in the ground.
Possibly.
But I can see what you mean, and I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment, that we're starting to move away from the construction system that Foxhole has originally had. And I think they left a lot of the original, dare I say, legacy buildings and structures in the game to ease the transition. But they are going to eventually get phased out. There is no way that the standard pillbox is going to stay. It has just been replaced by this new machine gun bunker piece.
They even said, I think,
functionally identical.
I think they just said that it functions identically. On the dev stream, they said, yeah, it functions identically as the pillbox, and that to me was like immediately, you're just going to get rid of the pillbox, aren't you? Which is fine. I'm not offended by that. If anything, it just makes it more efficient with the new system. But yeah, how it affects our artillery, our fire support in general, and your regiment in particular is very unfortunate. So we'll have to keep our fingers crossed. Yeah, your fingers crossed, especially.
I have my fingers crossed very, very dearly right now, because if things don't work out, I don't know what exactly we're going to do.
How? I guess we'll close. Yeah, go ahead. Finish.
What we specialize in is massive artillery fire, of course. And originally you just build a whole bunch of howitzers next to each other, but we're moving more towards this new type of combat with the trenches. The front lines are so much larger. The actual area of no man's land can extend far past 100, 150 meters, even out to 200, especially with the new upgrade system that prevents things from getting AI. Frontline just moves back and forth so quickly. It's so difficult to provide long-range fire support for that because you're constantly moving. And it's not a slow enough movement that cranes and shippable howitzers would be able to keep up with it. And with the new... I think they're called emplacement trenches, the octagonal trenches that they've introduced. They will increase the health of the howitzer, which has always been a major issue, but they won't be as close together as they were, which, with how short their range is, that makes massive artillery fire, which is what we specialized in, and what was so unbelievably fun. And it's fun for both sides. I know you were on the receiving end quite a few times, and
yes, a lot of our frontline reporters were indeed being hunted and stalked by the howitzer shells of the 128th. That'll never.
I'm sure it was
never be forgotten.
Good memories for them. But I really hope that they don't port all of the values over from the original howitzer when they're moving it to this new format. Because if they do, it's going to end up obsolete the second mortars come out, the second F8 comes out. It's not going to be able to keep up with anything.
I really do say change artillery that way, that it's not a destruction tool of sniping tunnel hole from a bag, like stacking mortars, which we often did in SIR. But I hope it more becomes like a frontline support for groupments of enemies, for vehicles, not just to snipe the FOB and win the battle, foremost, but to just support the frontline. Because I didn't like when people just like went around the FOB and entered the invasion as soon as it happened. I want a artillery piece to become a regular weapon too.
And that's how we used it. We made a point of avoiding the FOBs until we cleared all the stuff up to the FOB, because it's not fun to just snipe the FOB and then steamroll everything because they can't do anything about it. It's not entertaining. It really isn't. And you know, of course, I'm hoping that gets their bunker FOBs will hopefully do something about that. Hopefully more changes in the future will as well, but I hate to say I'm concerned. I am very, very concerned with the state of artillery, and it bothers me that a lot of people aren't.
Well, we'll see where it lands. I guess we'll leave off with some hope. Liquid, if there was any change, I know maybe you want to say that, you know, completely reverse all these changes altogether, but what would be your path towards integrating howitzers with the trench system here? How would you even approach that? If you were tasked with, hey, we have to implement this into the trench system, how would you implement it?
It is a very, very difficult thing to balance. I do not envy the devs in this situation. I love the idea of these emplacements. I'm not particularly fond of the build-up defenses and sit and wait for them to get used, or build-up defenses for other people that may not know how exactly you wanted your defenses to be utilized. The biggest thing that it comes down to is that
as much as I hate to say this, howitzers need to have more range. If they get stuck with 150, sure they can have more health. Sure they can, maybe buff the damage, but the FA is always going to come out on top. And it's really, really difficult to give the howitzer more range with the way the town halls are set up, because it just makes it that much easier to snipe them. So the biggest challenge when it comes to giving the howitzers their own special role in artillery support in this game comes from trying to find a way to separate them from the field artillery while still keeping them from being too strong as a town hall sniping weapon, as a defense sniping weapon.
Which is theoretically what the artillery piece should do, right?
Yes, the artillery piece in general should be a support weapon, and of course the FA. Yeah, the FA is essentially a field cannon. Its entire purpose, field howitzer. Its entire purpose is to destroy hardened positions, and that's what they were used for historically. The howitzer, on the other hand, is a long-range, indirect, inaccurate support. Hey, there's shit in this area. We want to spook it, and that should be its core use. From what I've seen with the howitzer's damage output, it's extremely inconsistent. The shrapnel, the spalling doesn't really feel natural. Sometimes you'll hit an infantry directly and he's fine. Sometimes, you're 5, 6 feet, 15 feet away from a howitzer shell blast and you die instantly with no chance of being revived.
I'm not gonna lie, that's been incredibly inconsistent. Yeah, I agree with that assessment. Sometimes they'll straight up bullseye someone and they'll get a little blood on them, but they'll be okay.
Also, the problem
they need to take a deep look into it, and because howitzers have been in the game for a very long time, and they have not been touched for a very long time. I think the last time they were messed with since the new ammunition types was, I don't even know when, but they need to, if they're serious about changing the way howitzers are used, they need to drop everything that they've had before, every system, every idea of what the howitzer should be, what it is from what the game has had, and build something that fits into this new meta that they're pushing towards. And if it doesn't work at first because the game hasn't fully transitioned, that's perfectly fine. But it needs to be something separate from the other artillery types, and it needs to have its role.
All right. Well, you know what? From someone who has a hands-on experience all over, Liquid, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Everyone out there.
We're actually cutting this one short by about 15 minutes. Usually we go for 2 hours, but you know what? Things are just so hectic. We're actually here at the PressCorps. We're gearing up for the upcoming 47th. I know a few people in this channel, and certainly all up and down the PressCorps roster are gearing up to report on the opening salvos and opening hours, opening days, opening moves of the upcoming 47th conflict. So we want to hear from all of you out there in the audience. Hear what your stories are. So please, if you ever find yourself wanting to share a story or an experience, stop by PressCorps World Headquarters through the Discord link below, and share them in the submissions channel in the Newswire. So I think we'll leave it off at that. Gentlemen, any closing thoughts, any closing sentiments?
The devs should add cavalry.
All right.
I'm Geoffrey Jennings, and thank you so much for listening to Zero Dark PressCorps.
Why don't you go fuck off, Rod?